Good morning, Wind Chasers. Welcome to another episode of Chasing the Wind. Pastor Mark joining you this fine Monday morning. So I was on vacation for a couple weeks, and this kind of devotional thing that I get, he doesn't consider it a devotion. I do, but anyway, I get it. And anyway, it was camping out in Gideon for a few days. If you know Gideon from Judges 6. Gideon's, the scene where I want to bring us to is when Gideon is in a wine press treading out grain. Does not make sense to be treading out wine or grain in a wine press, because you need to have the grain up where the breeze can catch it and blow away the chaff. And if you're down in a wine press, it ain't gonna work. And so, but he's down there because he doesn't want the Midianites, his enemies, the people who have conquered Israel and the land he's living in. He doesn't want them to get any of this grain because they've killed all the donkeys and the cows and the sheep and everything else, and they're basically starving him out. And he has this little bit of grain. He wants to do what he's doing, and he's down there hunkering down. He's hunkering down, going to make sure he has all his food stored up in his basement, so he is ready to go. And then, lo, an angel. Isn't that great? I love it. We're coming up to Christmas here in a couple of months. Lo, an angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Really, mighty warrior? And he is down, hunkering down in the wine press. It's a very interesting story, and that unto itself is a story. But this morning, as I was looking through it again, I noticed the next thing that Gideon says to him when he gets this admonition of mighty warrior. And that is a whole other piece, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. That was very personal for me. I may share it with you at some point. But Gideon says to the angel, "But sir," he's so polite, "if the Lord is with us, why is all this happening to us? Where are all his wonders that our fathers told us about when they said, 'Did the Lord bring us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and put us into the hand of Midian.'" I don't know about you, but do you ever find yourself these days asking yourself, "God, why is this happening? Why don't you just come down and smite all the bad people, i.e. the people that aren't doing things the way we want?" Some people say, "Oh, we're under judgment right now." Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. I don't know. God hasn't told me one way or the other. But, sometimes even when God's bringing judgment upon a land, there's a residual that even the good people, if you will, whoever they are, they feel the effects of that as well. There's a lot of stuff going on right now that we can find ourselves. I found myself the other day focusing on, okay, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that, because what if the end is here and I'm going to lose all this stuff, instead of focusing on what I'm going to gain. If Jesus does come, when he comes, he will come, but I mean, if he comes like in the next 20 minutes, which hopefully that means anybody watching this, or most of you watching this, aren't going to be here to watch it anyway, and the ones that are, then hopefully you'll kind of get things straightened out. But I don't know how all that works. But anyway, are we more focused on what we stand to lose? And then it drives me nuts. I got a buddy who's like trying to find a horse for his daughter. I'm like, "What are you doing? Don't you know that Jesus is coming soon? And you're going to a poor horse, so you're going to have to try and figure out." And I'm like, "Mark, what is the matter with you?" They call it COVID fatigue. I think it's called COVID craziness. We're getting crazy with stuff right now. And is that really what Jesus wants for us? He wants us to be ready for sure. But Gideon asked this question. He goes, "Sir," he goes, we know that God can. How come he won't?" I heard a preacher say that one time. "I know God can. I pray that he will. I know God can heal. I pray that he will heal." Sometimes that healing is as a person dies and they go to be with Christ. Heaven is not a punishment, as Corey Jones said. But we can be that Gideon, can't we? God says, "Hey man, you're blessed and highly favored." You say, "Well, right now, Lord, I feel stressed and highly favored," and I'm questioning the highly favored piece. And look what the angel does. The Lord, through the angel, turned to him and said, "Go on the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" It doesn't answer the question. You ever had God not answer your question? I've been asking, Lord, how come you're allowing all this nonsense? You know, sometimes we say, God, how come you allow the poor to go hungry? And maybe God's answer is, how come you're not doing what you can to feed just one or two? You may not be able to solve all the problems, but maybe you can solve it for one. Saw a vision statement one time at a church and it said, saving the world. Really? I'm like, wow, that's a huge task. I don't know that I can save the world. I'm going to do what I can to save the world around me. You know, lead people to Christ as best I can, but I don't know that I can save the world. My goodness, that's just ginormous, as they say. But so he's in this place. He's down in the hole, and I'm going to tell you something. We can get in a hole, can't we? We can be down in a wine press, and you know, and here's the interesting the thing about this. You don't tread grain, as I said, you don't tread out grain in a wine press. How many of us are doing the wrong thing in the wrong place? Oh my goodness, I didn't plan on this. We find ourselves and we're like, how come we're not making progress here? And I understand probably, you know, Gideon had to do that. He was trying to just survive. Sometimes there's things we have to do. I get that. But sometimes we find ourselves doing the wrong thing in the wrong place, and we wonder why it's not working. We want, you know, think of Elijah when he took on the prophets of Baal, and then he goes and he hides. He's totally exhausted. He's done, and I love what the angel says. What are you doing here? This isn't where you're supposed to be. And that's almost what is going on here with Gideon. What are you doing here? Forget that. You know, we want God to act the way he's acted in the past. You know, so Moses strikes the rock a second time, and all he gets is sore hands because it's like taking a ball bat and hitting it against concrete or something. And you wonder what, you know, your hands, the pain goes all up your arm. It's craziness. And the water doesn't come out because God doesn't act the same way every time. He's a little unpredictable that way, and that's okay. So the Lord turns to him and says, go in the strength you have. The strength you have. I've given you enough to do what you need to do. And save Israel. Wow. Go. Yeah, I know. You're down here hiding. You just want to say to God, God, do you want him to do it? It's like the person says, they start praying, oh, Lord, I'm the only Christian where I work, and it's just so hard. It's so hard. And Jesus saying, oh my goodness, we left him in charge down there. But God says to us, maybe he's saying this to you today. Maybe for some of you, you need to just realize you're doing the wrong thing in the wrong place. And you gotta interpret that, okay? You gotta figure that out. Some of you are starting to say, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this ministry or anything. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're not. Maybe it's too small for you. Maybe you're doing it in a place of fear and survival instead of a place of thriving and faith. Because then he says to him, Gideon, use the strength that you have. I've given you strength. Whatever you have left, I want you to use it to save Israel. And to defeat, not just that you're going to save Israel, but you're gonna put the kibosh on the Midianites, your enemies. Now Gideon has a little trouble. We read the rest of it, and he's got to throw out a fleece because I'm just not sure, God. I've been there. You know, I'm sometimes I can be very hard to hear, especially a major decision. God can tell me 15 times. I'm like, could you give me one more thing? My friends laugh at me because I say, Mark, I think he's made it pretty clear. Yeah, but I don't see how this is going to happen. As a friend of mine in Iowa said one time, he goes, yeah, because that wouldn't take any faith. Click the end button on that conversation. No, I didn't. And God goes on to use Gideon. There's so much more here. To be called a mighty warrior when he's down, hunkering down. You and I have so much more. There's so much more that God has for us to do in these times. Yes, we live our lives. That's a very hard thing to do. Live your life. I'm not saying go crazy, but enjoy that cup of coffee. Whatever you need, you know, whatever, and enjoy that time with someone. But take a look at where you're hunkering down. That's a funny word. It's an American word, isn't it? Hunkering down. Where you're shoring up, you're trying to just survive, you're trying to make it, and God's saying, come on, we got work to do. We have work to do. You're here today. You're awake. You're up. There's somebody I want you to make a difference in. Save Israel. We don't know how many people he saved. And the enemy is the enemy. And we need to take on the enemy. That's through prayer. Taking that on. So I'm going to leave it right there. Boy, there's a lot to unpack there. That'll give you something to chew on while you're sitting on the beach this summer. Oh, it isn't summer, so you got to sit out while you're sitting around a campfire, pondering the mysteries of the Church of Rome. No, you won't be doing that, but pondering what I have just said to you. And may God call you. May you hear his voice calling you out of the winepress to save those around you. And you can't save them, but you can share with them the good news. And to destroy the enemy who is trying to destroy us. So until next time, this is Pastor Mark signing off. Grace and peace to you. Keep chasing the wind because the wind is chasing you.